You want to sell your home, but you miss the market peak? That's going to be the first article we'll be discussing and how you can navigate a cooling Toronto real estate market. And then the second article we'll be discussing is that Canadian home prices for the first time since the pandemic are below on a year-over-year basis. So what that means is if you bought a home last year at this time, somewhere around June, it's actually, if you bought it now, it's worth less than what it was last year. So stay tuned to find out exactly what all of this means for you and your properties. Now, if you're looking for some help, whether you're buying, selling, or investing in real estate, the markets are kind of weird right now, and it's very segmented in each specific area. So you're more than welcome to book a strategy call with me if you're trying to navigate all of this using the link right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Simply click on the date and a time that works best for you. And then when you see the prompt, fill in your name, email, mobile phone number, and the question you have for me, and then we'll chat then. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to another episode of Prime Properties TV. My name is Zhen, and I own a RE/MAX in the Greater Toronto Area, on top of making awesome real estate YouTube videos and educational content like this to help you out in the real estate market. So the first article we're going to be discussing right here is you want to sell your home, but you missed the market peak. What now? So now I'm going to frame this article for you, but the first thing you really have to ask yourself is, why are you selling? People always come ask me about things because they're really concerned about what their things are worth, right? But unless you have a really strong reason for why you need to transact, I generally tell people not to transact, right? So, like if you need more space, kids, death, divorce, you can't afford your house. Those are the main reasons you have to divorce. You have to sell. But if you are just kind of casually doing it, then you really want to see the underlying reason why you need to sell, right? Now, as I go to the report here, the first thing that everyone talks about is the market is super quiet. It's really slow. The June market numbers were 20-year low in terms of the amount of sales, right? So that means we haven't seen a June this low in 20 years. I suspect July is going to be very much the same thing. I'm personally seeing it too. A lot of people who are even casually looking, the motivation's not as high because it's not kind of everyone's following into the market anymore, fear of missing out. It's more I need to make a move, but unless you are absolutely needing to make that move, you're I'm going to take it slow and see what's going on, right? Now, some of the people here are saying that if you're selling your home for less than what you planned it for, you're likely going to be buying for less than what you bought it for or planning to buy for, right? And this is what I've been saying in the last few articles, right? Last few videos. If you are planning to move to a bigger home, the percentage change just on average is the same. But nominally, meaning the actual dollar amount that you're buying, if it's a bigger home, then it's going to be a lot less than if you were selling. So making that move on the moving up makes a lot of sense. So in a market like this, moving down doesn't make any sense because you're trading your big home, you're going to lose a lot more dollar amount and going to a smaller home, right? Because back in a seller's market, anyone who was downsizing, going from a large home to a small home made total sense, right? Because you have bigger gains on your bigger home and smaller gains on your smaller home, right? So you gain less. Now, if you're moving laterally, it's the same thing, right? It doesn't matter. If you're in any market moving, same thing, like a semi to a semi or a detached to a detached, just the dollar percentage is the same thing. Yeah, it won't make a difference. Now, the things where it gets complicated is if you're kind of moving out of province and you're looking at a different kind of real estate market, then you just make sure you got to study both and use a professional on both sides, right? So you can see here, the other thing I highlighted here for is don't rush into a sale if it's not the right home for you and your family. This person's thinking it's a short-term correction, a dip, a slowdown, but it's not a cliff because it's Toronto after all. I tend to agree. A lot of people are hoping for a 50% crash because interest rates, or they think it's closer to the 90s, right? There's a lot of chance of that because of the higher inflation. But at some point, which is I'm going to say up to here, it's not like we're plummeting to the pre-pandemic levels, but I really do believe that there is going to be a floor for what Toronto prices are because at least anecdotally for me, right, when I talk to a lot of other agents, there is a point for a lot of my investors okay, the yields make a lot of sense, right? And I know I've been saying I'm going to release this video for a while. It will be this Thursday, as long as more stuff doesn't keep coming up, about how to kind of calculate your cap rates and your risk premium on whether it makes sense for you to be buying right now, right? So, in the market where rents are slowly creeping up, even interest rates are going up, at some point it may balance out and it may make sense to hold on to the property. And it just really depends on kind of what strategy you have when it comes to real estate, right? So all in all with this article, I think it's just kind of to say, look, the market is slowing down. These people believe that it's going to rebound. There's a floor. I think so at some point, but it's not to say that it's going to happen in the next few months, right? It could take a lot longer because I'm still of the belief right now of all the new inputs that I've been, provided in the last few months, like I'm pretty sure Bank of Canada is going to rate hike in September 7th, right? In 8 weeks, 7 8 weeks, right? Because the inflation is really high, and it doesn't look like inflation's rolling over anytime soon, right? So we got to just see what's going to happen. Now, if something breaks, right, then maybe they'll reverse course, because the market right now is pricing a rate cut for 2023. But again, the market's been wrong too, because the market up into the day, I think before last week for the rate hike, was penciling 75 basis point rate hike, but the market was also wrong. So again, everything is up in the air. No one has an answer of anything. So that's why it's just best that what are you planning to do? Just make sure you have a defensive position, a plan B, and to just transact accordingly, right? So if you are looking to transact, whether you're buying, selling, or investing, and you kind of want to just go through all the risk, the downside, the upside, you can book a call with me using the link right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Now, if you found this content useful and it helped you and kind of provide you some kind of insight on what's happening in the real estate market for you personally, I'm sure someone else will, that will benefit from watching this. So you can help me spread the knowledge by smashing that like button and subscribing to the Prime Property channel, because we're trying to get this to about 10,000 subscribers in the near future. So much appreciated if you could help. Now, on to the next article we have here, which is Canadian home prices down year over year for the first time since the start of the pandemic. Wonderful headline. And it is true. I did go through some of the Korea stats where they're basing this off of, and it's a little bit weird. I do have to say. So like the first kind of chart here I'm going to show you is this one right here. So you can see basically the average, which I like to use because the HPI is a little bit rigged anyway. It's kind of like inflation, but sorry for a different day. You can see over here the little red line, right? We're a little bit just coming down to what we were last year, right? That means that if you were to buy a home right now, it is worth less than what it was last year at this exact same time. So it's actually quite rare to kind of see this, right? But what I'm going to show you here is this right here is broken out in province, because CREA is the Canadian Real Estate Association, which is for the entire Canadian market. You can see here now, we saw some really high increases, but when you compare year over year, as the market is slowing down kind of in like 2022, but the market is going 2021, at some point those things crossed, and then when they cross, it means that the prices that we're buying right now is lower than what it was last year. I suspect that point is probably going to be in like September or so in the GTA, because remember, this is the Korea stats Canadian-wide. Like for GTA right now, we're like 1.15. Which puts us back in like September 2021, if I remember correctly. And I think come September, we may be lower than this 1146 price point, and then we're going to be kind of lower than last year. Because like I said, I do think that we're having another rate hike in September, so we're going to see a little bit more short-term volatility to the downside for the next foreseeable short term, right? Now, onto this kind of chart here of a year over year from provinces, which is what I found weird, because like every single province had a year over year increase very nominally, right? You can see Ontario here, it's like 2.5%. I think the best so far is PEI at 25%, right? And then you got New Brunswick, which is fine, it's like about 15%, and then Calgary is down 5% year over year. So all in all, like most of the properties are going up. That's why I found it shocking that the Canadian index of real estate prices is actually down, or just where it was last year, right? So I don't know if Calgary is providing that much of a kind of a balance. Now, the next chart I kind of want to show you is the residential sales in Canada, right? And this is just to give you an idea of how we're normally doing, because we had a huge bull run in the last 2 years, right? Meaning prices have gone up. You can basically see here, essentially, after the announcement of the pandemic, the number of sales, so the transactions, right, have really, really been way above kind of what the average since it was in the last 5 years. And you can see now that this last quarter, we're just coming down to what it was last year. So relatively speaking, I'm not trying to like wrap this into a nice little bow tie for you, but it's what we experienced in the last 2 years, we have to change out of that mindset, and we're going to readjust to what the norm is, because based on this right here, it is kind of the norm. And I talked about it in the June numbers as well. You can check it out in this video. The amount of listings that are coming online is actually relatively on par to the 10-year average we have in GTA. So this is kind of jiving with the same numbers even in Canada-wide. And then the last thing here is this is kind of the months of inventory or sales to new listing ratio, basically the speed at which things are decreasing and accelerating in the real estate market, right? So you can essentially see here that like the last 5 years, we're averaging about in Canada 4 months of inventory, and then the pandemic trade, which dropped it down to almost like 1.7, 1.9, which is really, really low for Canada. And you can see now we're spiking back up, right? So we're getting back to the 4 and a bit. So right now we're still low inventory Canada-wide, prices are dropping. That's why things are kind of like reverting norm. Now, if you look at kind of the red line over here, which is the sales to new listing ratio, which is the opposite inverse of months of inventory. So months of inventory is higher. That means the closer you are to a buyer's market, or sales to new listing ratio, the lower, the closer it is to this buyer's market. So right now you can see that as the blue charts have gone up, that means we're getting closer and closer to the buyer's market, which is around over here, like above 5, technically speaking. On the red one, we're coming down, meaning that less than half of the new listings that are coming online are being bought and being absorbed. Whereas you can see at the peak, basically we're like almost 80-90% of the new listings coming online were being bought and absorbed. So that's kind of like the big shift in dichotomy. We're going back to kind of like a pre-pandemic level. Now, is it gonna kind of level off at the pre-pandemic level, or we're gonna go below it? But like I said a little bit earlier, I do think that we're going to see some more like downward volatility just because the interest rates that's coming and like the kind of tightening of the monetary policy that, Bank of Canada is enforcing on everybody. That's a wrap for this video. Right now, we're like in mid-July, be till end of August. I don't think we're going to have any major announcements. Bank of Canada's kind of over. Maybe we'll get another inflation talk when the numbers come out in August for July. But that's really kind of it. We'll kind of monitor next week what happens with the US and their ability to increase or decrease the interest rate. Clearly increase. I think the market's pricing in also 75 basis points, but 100's not off the table, and we'll probably have to follow them, right? So that'll probably be the only last few announcements for the rest of the summer, but hopefully you guys found this useful. And if you are looking for some help in the real estate market in the GTA, whether you're buying, selling, or investing, you can book a strategy call with me using the link right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Until next time, your move, your future. See ya. Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one? Oh, you know what? This one's good too. Ooh, this one's really good. You know what? Just watch them both.